WorldWire contributor, May 18, 2025. When policy shapes perception and opportunity. The decision by the United States to grant refugee status to 59 white South Africans, defended by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, has stirred global controversy. For some, it is an act of humanitarian intervention. For others, it signals a distorted prioritization of whiteness in global migration and victimhood narratives. But beneath the headlines lies a deeper challenge for Africa's youth. Who controls the global African story, and how should young leaders rise to claim it? As digital-first professionals and aspiring leaders across Africa's emerging economies grapple with issues of identity, justice, and sovereignty, this moment is not just about refugee resettlement. It is about who speaks for Africa, and whose pain is platformed. The core issue, narrative disparity. Global selectivity. Secretary Rubio argues that Afrikaner refugees are victims of state-sanctioned persecution, even referencing genocide claims. This, despite official data showing no evidence of targeted racial extermination. Checkmark statistic. According to BBC News, only one farmer out of 12 farm-related deaths in late 2024 was a landowner. The rest were workers or dwellers, reflecting broader issues of rural violence, not racial targeting. Yet the decision to accept white, economically mobile, English-speaking South Africans as refugees reveals a double standard in global empathy. African and Middle Eastern migrants often drown in the Mediterranean or languish in camps despite fleeing war, famine, and real persecution. Checkmark statistic. The UNHCR reports that over 80,000 African asylum seekers were denied entry into the EU in 2023 alone, many from Sudan, Eritrea, and Nigeria. Few were granted protected status despite facing life-threatening conditions. This differential treatment underscores a vital truth: global sympathy remains unequally distributed, and African voices are too often relegated to the margins unless they serve external agendas. Real-world implication. Narrative as power. In 2023, Kenyan climate activist Elizabeth Wathuti was denied a U.S. visa to speak at a UN sustainability forum, while CEOs and influencers with less direct relevance to the topic gained media prominence. Her story mirrors the broader pattern: Africa is heard only when convenient, not when necessary. This moment invites a call to action for young African professionals, storytellers, and digital entrepreneurs. We must own the platforms, the media, the data, and the diplomacy. If we don't, others will craft our crisis and then define our salvation. For the African digital generation, what's at stake? 1. Control the narrative. If you're a content creator, podcaster, developer, or blogger, tell Africa's story from the ground up. Don't let the headlines be written from afar. Build channels that amplify local truths to global audiences. 2. Push for policy literacy. Whether it's land reform in South Africa or digital rights in Nigeria, young Africans must understand the legal and policy frameworks that shape their nations. Global perception begins with domestic coherence. 3. Call out performative allyship. African professionals must demand equal scrutiny of all refugee and migration policies. If white South Africans can be swiftly accepted as refugees, why are black African asylum seekers left stateless? Question the inconsistency. 4. Use tech to document and disrupt. Platforms like TikTok, Substack, and YouTube are powerful. Use them to document injustice, share economic innovation, and challenge international misrepresentation in real time. Closing thoughts. The battle for African voice. Secretary Rubio's defense of this Trump-era policy raises hard questions not just about race or geopolitics, but about credibility and courage. African youth are no longer bystanders in global affairs. We are founders, coders, filmmakers, and reformers. This is our moment to turn digital fluency into civic power. To stop exporting only talent and trauma, and start exporting truth, innovation, and leadership. Let's not just ask who gets refugee status. Let's ask who gets to define what justice means. Loudspeaker. Are you an African youth professional shaping narratives in media, tech, or leadership? Tell your story using hashtag Africa Voices now and tag us at Worldwire News. Want your voice featured on our digital column? Submit a guest opinion at info@worldwirenews.zi.